split. Might hear me.
Good morning, good morning.
That's too much. Sorry.
Are we a little too loud now? A little bit. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining this morning. A big thanks to the panelists up here. Woo! Yes, I love these people. So, the copy has been quite kicked in, so I'll read my notes. Okay, I'm Stephenson with EPA Region 9 in our zero waste section. I've been with EPA for about 20 years. For 10 years, I've been on tribal solid waste. And what's really cool is we had never had funding before on solid waste infrastructure directly for programs. It was always like, let's think creatively of how we can do this under GAAP. But now, for the first time ever, we have the SWIFR funding. So I want to chat for a minute about this open opportunity, and then I will turn it over to our successful round one grantees to have them share about their experience. So we're putting this under the framework of building a circular economy. I don't know why the line got through for tribes. It hasn't been X'd up. The formatting is a bit funky. Okay, so how we've got this funding, within the Save Our Seas Act 2.0 in December 2020, we got the authority to fund improvements to solid waste management programs and infrastructure. And it's all under this framework of a circular economy, which is really cool because a circular economy is really about closing the loop, having designs that are restorative and regenerative, enable resources to be used to maintain their highest possible value for as long as possible. So like recycling at a very high level, you don't want to degrade the materials, and then really eliminating waste. So kind of shrink the circle so our total resource use is decreased. And that's in the authorizing legislation of Save Our Seas. And then we got the money for what we were authorized to do through the bipartisan infrastructure law, IIJA, which I'm blanking on the acronym, but that gave us like unprecedented amount of funding, including the ability to establish SWIFR, the Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling grant program. And this all fits into a series that EPA is doing of circular economy strategies with our national recycling strategy. And now we have a food waste and organics recycling strategy. We have a plastic pollution reduction strategy, and just watch us go. We'll create more and more strategies. But the whole point is to have move our entire system and economy to a way that really embraces the circular materials management, closing the loop and reducing resource use to address climate change and have the benefits available to all. So reduce the impacts to environmental justice communities. So in round one, there were three parts of solid waste infrastructure for recycling, SWIFR. There was a non-competitive program that went to all the states, territories, and the District of Columbia. We awarded 25 SWIFR for community grants, and we awarded 58 SWIFR for tribes and tribal consortia grants. And that was $165 million through those three kind of aspects of SWIFR in the first round. There was also the Recycling Outreach and Education, REO program, and that awarded $33 million to 25 grantees, really focused just on recycling, outreach, and education. This morning I'm going to be talking about SWIFR round 2 for tribes, but you'll also notice that REO, Recycling, Education, and Outreach, round 2 is open. Though I'll note that this time around, REO is only going to be awarding one grant for $39 million. And that's really focused on national consumer wasted food reduction campaign, increasing the market and sales for compost, and increasing education and outreach to households on composting. So I think a couple folks had applied to REO round 1. But this time, Rio Round 2 is really like, has a big time focus. So, SWIFR, Round 2. The announcement announced September 16th. The whole intent of the project, or the grant program, is to provide funding support for post-consumer materials management and infrastructure. We're looking to award $20 million, approximately 20 awards. The minimum award amount is $100,000 and the maximum is $1.5 million. And the applications are due March 14th. So a good time around. Round 1, I think y'all only had like 90 days to put together a proposal, and that was over the holidays. I apologize. That was awful. But this time, it's 6 months. So we're really hoping that this gives everyone time to like think of a plan, put together a really thoughtful application, and take advantage of it, because we'd love to see more applications. The link is up there. There's a webinar on this next week. You can link, and there was a webinar last week on the basics. There's lots of information. The main thing that I want to cover, but because this is an open competition, I just really encourage you to read the details of the notification of funding opportunity. But at a high level, you can do a variety of things. And these folks will tell you what they're doing with SWIFR. But you can develop and update plans for solid waste management, look at like, oh, if we were to start a composting program, like what would be the feasibility of that? Or recycling, how would we develop markets for recyclables? You can really look at improving your data collection efforts. Anything that's focused within the national recycling strategy or our national strategy to reduce wasted food and increase organics recycling. You can look at like expanding infrastructure, so a transfer station, more bins. Although I will say transfer station focused on diversion, so recycling and composting, reuse, not like landfill activities. It's more explicit in round 2 that like nothing for disposal, incineration, pyrolysis is included in this. And then anything to demonstrate the diversion of materials. So we really, again, it's all about recycling, composting, reuse, source reduction. So if you have any questions, don't ask me, I'm not allowed. But please send them to this EPA address. And what's great is because this is an open competition, all the questions that they're getting through the webinars, through the email address, are all put into this FAQ document. And it's continually updated, and so you can see the answers. So if you're like, oh, I wonder if this is eligible, and you read the NOFO, and you're like, it's kind of questionable, go check it out there. That's like, if you're like, oh, are tire recycling eligible? That's actually an FAQ, it is. But you can read the details, so if you have any questions like that, please check it out. So that is the funding opportunity that is available now. And now I want to turn it over to Marissa to share their story about how you have both your existing program and what you're looking to do under your SWIFR projects. Yep.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, so my name is Marissa Snap. I'm the environmental director for the Shoshone Tribes. And this is what we're going to do with our program. So, the Shoshone Tribes are located on the border of Idaho and Nevada, with approximately half the land located in each state. Our total acreage of the reservation is 289,820 acres. And it's right there on the border. And the transfer station. So what we recycle right now, we recycle white paper, cardboard, tires, aluminum, oil, and white goods.
There's a little bit of a lag.
And then going to the landfill, we have our construction waste and household waste. And then our miscellaneous
It reflects.
stuff that we have there. We have our animal carcass pit and then the hot ash bin. And then we have the awnings over our trash bins right there to kind of diminish our wait in the winter time because it freezes, and then to wait totals up. And then current operations, we have two 40-yard bins, and then we have one 20-yard construction bin. And we make a minimum of 3 trips a week to the landfill, which is about 100 miles away, a little more than 100 miles away. And we only have one solid waste technician, and we are open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday through Monday. And this includes holidays and everything. And in the background is our recycling center. There you can see our cardboard and the white goods and tires onto the side. Our current challenges are limited staffing and training, and along with that, it's kind of hard to implement our transportation flow. People kind of get lazy and don't want to go to the cardboard recycling area, so they just throw it in the solid waste bins. And then in our area, we have minimal CDL drivers, and then we also have challenges with illegal dumping. Our community education and engagement is kind of down because there hasn't really been like a tech department out in the community lately, so we're working on that. And then we need to upgrade our layout because we're just having more trash lately. And then inflation is really has really gone up. And then our equipment is getting pretty old. And then high waste volume, increase in tipping fees, and then increase in fuel. So the outcome of SWIFR, we are going to hire a recycling technician to do the outreach. We want them to weigh materials to the landfill and to the recycling centers. We want to purchase a new baler, a scale, and some recycling bins. And then we're also doing tire recycling. And then here's our big old mountain of tires. It's more than that. This was taken a couple years ago. And our tire recycling goes out into Utah, Salt Lake. So they come to us and pick it up. It's about $7,000 a trip. And then here is our oil recycling. And that is everything.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Megan Poffenbarger, and I'm an environmental technician for the Pechanga Band of Indians in Southern California in the Temecula area. So we're right in Riverside County, just at the bottom portion, and barely scrape into San Diego County. And I will be talking about our project to build a recycling center and also implement a curbside collection program on the Pechanga Reservation. So, starting in the past, this is what the Pechanga trash collection area looked like about 10 years ago. Just some 40-yard bins above the ground, and we have a lot of issues with people loading trash in by opening up the door on the bin, but then not closing it. Res dogs get in, bring out trash, other types of critters, stuff would blow around in the wind, cause a lot of problems just with litter and general waste. But we had a new public works director come in, John. He's awesome. I've really enjoyed working with him throughout this entire process so far. And he built up this cement staging area for our transfer station. This is the lower level of it. There's the 40-yard bins and some additional bins. And instead of tribal members driving up and trying to chuck a bag of something into a bin or opening a door and leaving it open, they're able to drive that towards the top and just deposit their waste directly into the bins. So it's made that a lot easier, but we're still having issues with improper sorting, improper diversion, and other types of problems that we're attempting to resolve now. All right, here's a little bit of what we're looking like currently. Up on the upper level of our transfer station, we have a 40-yard bin where folks can drop off wood waste. We also have a construction and demolition bin for concrete, and we have some green waste bins as well. We chip up all kinds of plant material from landscaping efforts. We also have some signage, which is there, which is great, but it's not my favorite. It's kind of off to the side, so if someone was going to visit the transfer station, they would have to pause, look at it and read it, and then go to their end destination. I would love for our signage to be at that end point, so when people are depositing all of their waste recyclables, they know exactly what they're doing, and signage is a lot more clear with more imagery and potentially a couple additional languages on the signs as well. I would love to have the tribes language incorporated as well as Spanish, since we have a lot of people who do work for tribal members who are primarily Spanish speakers. We also have some 3-yard bins for scrap metal, tire recycling, e-waste, things like that. We have a compactor that's new, that's for baling cardboard. That's probably the most successful part of our current operation is cardboard diversion. So cleaning that up a little bit more would be great. Oftentimes people don't take styrofoam or packing material out of boxes before they throw them into the cardboard bin. So there's still a lot of on-hand effort that's required of our current technician who manages that program. It takes a lot of time. So we're trying to iron out some of those things as well. And then we unfortunately only have this one little 5-yard bin for mixed recyclables. And this gets filled up really quickly, which is exciting because it means that people are using it, but there's opportunity to expand our capacity to increase the amount of mixed recycling that's being collected by tribal members who participate in our program. Okay, so starting from the past to get to where we are now, there's been a lot of planning that's been done to prepare for the SWIFR grant. Before the SWIFR grant was even in existence, but we have done a lot using gap funding. So we built up a residential solid waste and recycling collection system plan that we were hoping to implement. This is from a lot of requests from tribal members in the past. Currently, there's not a curbside collection program on the reservation. So any of our silver feathers or elderly folks, anyone who has a disability is required to self-haul to our transfer station. And also putting trash in your car and taking it somewhere is kind of icky. So we're trying to eliminate that need and instead provide a service to the membership by implementing a curbside collection program on the reservation. We also have our integrated solid waste management plan. One of my colleagues, David, defined a materials recovery facility handbook probably close to 10 years ago now. So there's been a few different attempts to build out our program to make things better, and either lack of funding or other issues have risen up in the past. So SWIFR was a really great opportunity for us to overcome that and finally launch into this new era for waste and recycling management on the Bochanga Reservation. We also have conducted waste audits in the past, one in 2018, pre-COVID, one in 2023, post-COVID. Surprise, surprise, people's behavior has changed a lot before the pandemic and post the pandemic. So it's really important for us to understand what waste management or what waste disposal looks like for people so that we could properly provide services and really plan for how we are going to implement our program. Finally, I also conducted a tribal membership survey last year, talking to residents and asking them, where are we falling short with the services that we're offering? What would you like to see? What do you think needs to be changed? I was able to offer a gift card as an incentive, which really helped with participation, and that was done with tribal membership, or with tribal government funding. Our 2023 waste characterization was really helpful with informing the plan for how to implement our program via SWIFR. We found out that about a third of the waste that was going into our landfill stream truly belonged in the landfill stream. A third of it is organics, and a third is recyclable. So by implementing better waste diversion tools and things of that nature, we can divert a third of the waste right now and potentially earn or save money for the tribe at the same time, which is really exciting. Organics is on the horizon. Unfortunately, that's not part of my program currently, but I'm hoping that'll be our next phase. So for our recycling center, we're going to buy a prefabricated steel building. This will provide us with shade, protection from the elements. We get either heavy rain in the winter, very sporadically, otherwise hot sun all the time. So when you have products, especially household hazardous waste, universal waste, all of those different types of waste sitting out, baking in the sun, it fades labels, it cracks containers, it causes a lot of problems. So we're trying to mitigate that by introducing an actual building facility to handle that. On the other side of our program, for curbside collection, there's mostly dirt roads on the reservation outside of the paved area right at the front where all the government services buildings are. So we can't have a trash truck go out and collect recyclables because it's too big, the roads are a little unstable, and it would be difficult for them to actually get out to the different residences. So our solution is to buy 4x4 trucks and modify them with these things called park cans, and it's a device that allows you to pick up either 3-yard bin or small like 80-gallon bins that any general person would have at their house, dump it into the bed of the truck, and then we can haul to a centralized collection area. So this is the way that we're going to modify our program to make sure we can still provide services to people who are in relatively inaccessible areas because of lack of paving on the reservation. So as I've kind of touched on, these are our 3 primary goals for our SWIFR funding. One is to build out a recycling center with better opportunities to house, store, and dispose of household hazardous waste, universal waste, all the different types of waste, and also bulk out our recycling stream. We'll have a designated place for it. Right now, our transfer station is separate from the area where we house our HHW, and so aggregating that all in the same area is going to be a lot more efficient for our employees and allow us to keep everything in the same spot. Also implementing curbside collection service on the reservation for tribal members. I also conducted a waste analysis or a cost analysis of all of the plastic water bottle usage on the reservation, mostly for all the departments in the tribal government 2 years ago, and found that there's really substantial opportunity for reduction in plastic usage via the implementation of some water bottle refill stations in strategic places around government service buildings. So that's kind of the third part. It's the smaller part, but still important for what we get to do using our SWIFR funding. And here's some ideas that I have for how to build out a really successful grant proposal specifically for this grant. Something that's been a big learning curve for me is the fact that this is an infrastructure grant. Construction is the core part of this grant, or at least like 50% of ours. And most of our other grants don't really incorporate construction. So there's some other legal things that you need to be paying attention to, different types of legislation. For example, budgeting with inflation and also the Davis-Bacon Act in mind, potentially Build America, Buy America, if that is applicable to your grant funding. Davis-Bacon requires using prevailing wage for certain types of construction activities. That's more expensive than I was anticipating. So our budget has had to be modified a little bit to be more strategic about how we can pay for all the services that we want and all the supplies that we want. So keep that in mind when you're building your budget because it'll help you plan for that ahead of time instead of having to be flexible afterwards. I also encourage you to build your grant application with adaptive management in mind. Sometimes the ideas that you had when you were building your grant application change because better options become available later. So building your application so that you can modify some things to provide better solutions to the problems you might be encountering is really important. And lastly, I would encourage you to build your grant application with the legislation that is providing the grant funding in mind. Keep in mind the verbiage that has gone into everything. EPA wants to win to meet their goals by providing us funding. We also want to win to meet our goals by receiving funding. So if you can establish something so that everyone wins at the same time, that makes your grant application a lot more competitive than it would be otherwise. So be strategic with that, do your research, and make sure you know what you're wanting to accomplish with your grant. And this is my contact information. That's a QR code for the Instagram account that our department runs if you want to follow us. We do some funny stuff and also just showcases what we're doing on the Pechanga Reservation in the environmental department. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a phone call. I would love to help out any way I can. Thank you.
I'm curious, am I a silver feather? That's the first I've heard that. I like that. My name is Ron Sutherland. I'm with Trinidad Rancheria. I'm the Trinidad Rancheria Environmental Program Director. Just to give you a quick idea of where we're located, we're located in Northern California, right on the coast. We have a pretty small land base. I think it's about 100 acres. And we own and operate a small casino with 2 restaurants, as well as a harbor and like a commercial crabbing fleet, as well as like a sport fishing fleet. And this is our team right here. I've been the director for about 2.5 years. Henry Baker is a grant manager. He's been there for about 2 years. And the rest of our team is like extremely new. So we are pretty ambitious. So through the SWIFR program, we just hired Darren Sweetberg, who's our zero waste tech. And what we're going to do is we're going to be purchasing supplies, equipment, and provide support for project activities, provide training staff, composting safety, equipment use, provide training for program participants to reduce contamination of organics. Excuse me. So the background, when we came in, we were looking at our integrated solid waste management program, and it was a little bit out of date. So we did a bunch of planning sessions with all of our tribal businesses, and found there's a huge need for something for the environmental program to do. We're looking at the new SB 1383. We had a waste characterization study that showed that we could be diverting over 50% of our solid waste into composting or recycling or some way to get it out of. We have a big compactor, and that didn't include a lot of like the post-consumer products, the waste from our kitchens and stuff like that. And so we're thinking there's probably closer to like 60% that we could be diverting from our compactor. Through kind of our planning sessions, we found that we have a major shredded paper problem. We have a big maintenance shop that's probably 3 times the size of this room, and like half of it's filled up with shredded paper from the tribal offices, from casino, and they're having a hard time figuring out how to dispose of all of that. So like I said, we have a own and operate Trinidad Harbor, and we have a major fish waste problem. The Trinidad Bay is considered an area of special biological significance, and which means that we can't discharge anything into the harbor. Fish waste being one of them. So we used to have a fish cleaning station, but we were forced to remove that. And so we have all this crab waste, all this fish waste from sport fishermen, as well as the harbor has I think 6 or 7 charter boats that go out every day, catch fish, bring it in. And there's really no way to get rid of it. And so what we find is people take it home, look at the fish, and then either dump it in the trash, or we find it on the side of the road, or we'll come back to the harbor, after it's closed and discharge it back into the bay. So we have a huge fish waste problem. We've hired some new staff that are doing a lot of landscaping and fuels reduction on the Rancho Grande. So if you kind of look down, the bottom middle is a picture of our just our slash pile. So, and it's kind of growing every day. We don't really have a way of dealing with it. So we noticed that we didn't have had a real lack of recycling at the harbor, and between all of our entities with tribal operations, casino, restaurant, harbor operations, there was no really coordination or continuity between all of them. So Henry, our grants manager, I'm busy doing a ton of other things. He decided that he wanted to try to tackle this issue, and I said, go ahead, man. If you want to do it, then I have my full support. And he went ahead and applied for the SWIFR funds, and here we are now. So he's kind of managing. He wrote and managed the grant. Is managing the grant now. So kind of going back a little bit, when we were kind of looking at ways to solve this problem, we got a contact from the Sinti-Neshunesh tribe, a guy named Mark Funkhauser, and he operates the zero waste facility there, and he really provided a lot of guidance and assistance and advice to kind of guide our ambitions and goals here. So it's kind of where we got the idea of a zero waste facility. So so through our SWIFR funds, our idea is to build this zero waste facility with kind of three different sections to it. One dealing with organic waste. We'll be collecting food and food waste, shredded paper, green waste. We're going to try to convert everything in the casino to some sort of compostable material. So, and then of course the fish and crab waste from the harbor. The next sector will be our recyclables, where we'll be collecting and sorting and backhauling recycling from all our entities. And we also, through our gap funding, received some add-on funds to purchase a really cool hazardous waste storage facility. It's like a 20-foot Conex box with 2 roll-up doors. It's got a graded bottom with a sump. It's really nice. It's got vents and stuff. It's a great facility. We actually put it into use for the first time for a community event that we had last month, and it just worked great. So we've also applied for EPA hazardous waste management grant funds and received those. So we're kind of building a hazardous waste facility in a program, community program with those funds also. So the zero waste facility will kind of have all 3 of these elements to it. As I said before, we have a very small land base. So our main rancheria properties is about 72 acres. And it seems like all of the departments are kind of fighting for a piece of land here. So we were able to identify this delinquent lot behind, it's somewhat in the casino parking lot. There's a wastewater treatment plant there. They're just kind of storing a bunch of stuff there. And so, working with tribal council and our planning team, we identified this area and got it approved. So we're going to develop this site. It's pretty small, but we think, we're gonna try an in-vessel composter and hope that it kind of solves the food waste and organic waste problem, which is a smaller footprint. So we're hoping we should be able to fit all of our 3 sectors, I guess, into this small area. So some of the program activities, if you look down here on the left, the picture on the left, that's a picture of our presentation. Some of the program activities that are designed to build a zero waste facility, of course, grants collection, recycling services. We have, like I said, we have 3 restaurants. I did mention we plan with Trinidad Elementary School, a local school in our area, and we'll be collecting all of their waste also. Casino, tribal offices, we have Victim Service Center, Emergency Operations Center. I mentioned our landscaping facilities departments, the Trinidad Pier and Harbor, and there's a lot more that we can do eventually. Really it was nice to see the presentations yesterday on some of the advanced projects that are going on in the yellow bins that the Chumash Reservation is doing. So we'd like to possibly incorporate that with residents, as well as local businesses in the area. We have, I think, 3 other restaurants that we can collect from. So we're hoping to kind of expand. Distribute finished compost and backhaul recyclables, purchase some of the equipment, supplies. Our new zero waste technician will be coming on, I think, 4th of November. And then, sharing results with the tribal community. So we realized that, this project's going to be it's pretty ambitious, and there's going to be a lot of trial and error and failures and successes and a lot of learning opportunities. And so we will be holding, I think it's like quarterly kind of like meetings to discuss our projects and talk about all the, lessons learned. So if you guys are interested in attending those meetings, we have a QR code and put your email address in and we'll contact you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to, what I love about all this, thank you for y'all sharing your stories, is like what you see here are really tailored, unique approaches to increasing recycling, increasing composting that meets the needs of your communities. Like really rural, a lot of organics, crazy fish waste, like building on like dirt roads. Like, okay, what kind of truck do we need? So a lot of it goes into like thoughtful planning, and then and now we actually have funds to try the execution and see how it goes. And hopefully a lot more great stories to come in the years forward. So I do want to say 2 things. One, Bertha had a really cute presentation that I messed up the formatting, so that was my bad, but it was super cute. And 2, Megan's note on how y'all use your waste characterization data. I want to give a plug. We have how to conduct waste characterization trainings at Opchin, November 13th and 14th. Room's still available. Come sort waste with us. Learn how to do it. Learn how to use the data. It's really informative to feed into your program plans and identify those opportunities, especially, a third of it is organics. Maybe we could develop an organics program. So a plug for that. And now I want to turn it over to you all. We have 10 minutes for questions. So anyone? Yes.
Megan, what was the name of that little 4x4 truck that you guys were going to use? The name of the thing, and if I could get information about that.
Thank you. So there are different options. We're just taking a normal truck, and then there's a company called Parkan, PAR-KAN, and they'll do the modifications. I'm sure there's some other companies who offer similar service, so we'll have to do the free bid process and everything for it, but that was our lead that we used to establish our budget.
Good morning, Tom Jesse, Bishop St. Tribe, right here. This was Marissa. I saw the trucks you had in the background to haul the material off. It was 100 miles, right? I just wanted to know if you had a ballpark figure of like the gas costs or the fuel costs every month.
So to fill up the diesel truck is about 250, and it probably takes a full tank of gas there and back. So 250 times 3, around there.
Yeah.
So about 1,000 a week. Yeah.
Just a question for Megan. I loved how you showed your waste characterization and the organic section is to be dealt with later. I'm wondering, as you were planning and thinking about what facilities you build for SWIFR under the SWIFR grant, if you thought about how future organics processing might fit in with that, like looking at all of that waste, even if you can't pay for all of it right now.
So the way our transfer station is currently set up is that there's a green waste area. It's big enough where 2 40-yard bins can fit to load all the waste into before it's processed with our chipper. So that would probably be the future site if we were going to implement composting. Ron, you mentioned getting like an actual composting unit, right? Okay, so that would be super cool to get in the future, and that would have to have electricity run to it, so it might be able to be housed in our recycling center that we're building anyway. But that would be something to potentially think about. I don't know if you want to speak on your recycling or your composting.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned that we did some planning with Mark Funkhauser at the Chumash Reservation, and they have a new vessel composter. So we've sent some staff there to look at it, and done a ton of research. We're hoping that it's going to serve our needs, but there's a ton of different vessel composters out there that we're still researching, and we just haven't made a decision on what we're going to use yet. So we're just hoping that. I don't think they're like a proven product. So, yeah, we'll see.
So, Marissa, you guys bring your guys' stuff to Alco, right?
Yes, for the landfill stuff.
So I guess this one's more for you guys both. How far is your nearest landfill?
So Pechanga, we use a contract hauler to take our waste from our transfer station to the nearest landfill. From Temecula to the CR in our facility, that's our contractor. They're located in Paris, California.
Mileage.
I think it's like 50 miles, really. I could check a map.
So on Alco Band, we're a colony, and the landfill is in the city, but I keep getting told like we should set up our own transfer station. But at this point, when travel members have like their own waste, it's like in city limits, it's what, like 10 minutes max. For that drive out there. So I'm wondering, like, is it even worth it to set up our own on colony land, or just, keep doing what they're doing? And because even like the tribe like takes their garbage and whatnot to the city landfill. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of hung on that decision whether to go about that or just leave it as is. What would you guys recommend?
I'm just gonna jump in. So a general rule of thumb is about 35 miles is usually the break-even point of kind of figuring out, like, does it make sense to do the transfer station versus direct haul? I mean, we have tools to look at it, but typically rule of thumb, 35 miles.
I was mistaken. So from Temecula to Paris, it's about 30 miles. Not sure.
It still takes 2 hours.
There's a lot of traffic.
This is Frederick with Navajo EPA. For us on Navajo, it's the norm to haul garbage one way, probably about 80 to 100 miles. And these are probably for about 30 facilities across Navajo Nation. So just to put something into perspective for other tribal communities as you think about your solid waste and how each of the tribes are doing. And just because of the distance on Navajo, that's usually our number one cost is haulage, fuel, from the facility or the trucks, the fleet of vehicles that haul the garbage. On Navajo, we have our own Navajo-owned sanitation services, Navajo Sanitation. They're their own private company, Priority One Navajo-owned business, and they have a monopoly on Navajo to deal with the solid waste hauling. So that's pretty much out of our hands. They do their own business. It's out of the hands of Navajo EPA.
Can I say something about your programs?
I want to talk about Marissa's program for one hot minute because you are so remote, but what is really cool is they got a baler under SWIFR, but you've had a baler for many years, and they really compact the recyclables, and then don't you all put them in like long like semi trucks? So, or like, it's very efficient, like when you do take a load to be recycled, it's not just like a truck with a little trailer, it's like baled commodities, so it's baled cans, cardboard. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so where we take our recyclables is 140 miles away from our reservation. So, we kind of have to make the trip for $10. That's usually what we get for our recycled goods is $10. So we're like, yeah, so we save it up. And that's why it was, it looked like a lot there. But there's like, what is it? Yeah, it's a flatbed hookup, and then we stack them on top of each other, and then our one recycle takes it in when he has the time. Yeah, and then we do the same with our white goods as well. And it's all, our recycles are the other way, in Idaho, 140 miles away.
Jenny, can you say that again, the 35-mile break-in point was for doing what? And then the gentleman from Trinidad, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, sir. Rob, I thought it was Rob, I thought it was my name. Ron, okay. I noticed on your slide that you listed cigarette butts as recyclable, and I guess I didn't realize that, cigarette butts could be recycled, so I was curious if you could talk about that.
Okay, to your first one, the rule of thumb is the transfer station, like, does it make sense to build a transfer station or self-haul?
There's a company, there's a company that does something with cigarette butts. They repurpose them into something, I can't remember what it is, we found this company, and I think they provide us with a bag that we collect all of our cigarette butts, and send them off to them, and they reuse them for something. So, yeah, maybe tables and benches or something.
TerraCycle.
So,
Is it TerraCycle?
I can't remember what it is, it's been so long since we implemented that.
I thought cigarette butts were considered toxic waste because the nicotine in the filters. Okay.
One more question, one last question here.
All right, the question is for Marissa. I'm just interested in the trucks. I see you had CDL drivers there. Did that SWIFR or anything pay for the licenses to have them go get licensed?
No, we haven't tried.
Is that something possible? Because that's a big barrier in travel country is getting licensed. People like being licensed and everything. We get regular license. So
Jenny just said you could. So,
Well,
this next one, we're gonna have like 20 CDL drivers on it.
Will you drive it next time?
Do it.
Yes.
Well, Rachel, you're a driver, right? Well,
We're trying to do it.
You're trying to do it?
Like, we were talking about how much it costs to.
It does cost a lot. So this is a good question to submit as an FAQ specifically, though I will say you can build training into your staffing. So like Trinidad has it for their zero waste technician. They build training hours and training costs into their grant. So like if you put it under training, like I don't know if the actual licensing piece, but like the training would be, I think, eligible. But again, that'd be a great question to submit to the SWIFR question. But yeah, because CDL, like having it is a limitation, especially in rural areas. Okay, JR said that was our last question. Zero, or zero. Zero waste. Okay, here we go. So one last big